Hello everyone, this is Jimmy and welcome to episode 22 of Celestial Journey. I'd like to get started today by making some end crystals and going to kill the dragon. So I'll just add these to auto crafting. But anyways, the reason I want them is because I've been using stuff like these chunk loading wards to chunk load, because I'm basically out of loaded chunks. I could increase the config limit, like it's functionally the same, but I have plenty of other uses for grid power as well. I need it to do stuff like for all those ender porcupines. And right now my source of grid power is mostly from the water mills, but it's getting to the point where water mills are pretty inefficient. They're 41% efficiency loss. So, may as well, start killing dragons, right? Let's see. I'll go kill a couple dragons, get a couple eggs, and I'll use those to make the dragon egg. I'm also going to get a syringe full of dragon blood. When it comes time to automatically farm the dragon, I think we'll need this. That'll be quite a ways off, but and it'll be quite a challenge, but we'll tackle that challenge when we get there. For now, I just need his blood. Thank you, dragon. You may die now. Bye-bye. If I can hit you. I should, actually, before I spawn the second one, I'm going to go get some vials to get some dragon's breath as well. Well, each dragon dropped 2 eggs for some reason. I don't know, not that I'm complaining, but I guess we can make 4 dragon egg mills. So I think the first one gives 100% efficiency, and then the subsequent ones are actually pretty darn inefficient, but I mean, whatever, it's still better than not having them, right? We'll just put them here. 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll need a dragon egg for witchery later, but for now we can use all these on dragon egg. So yeah, the first one gives... The first one gives 500. Each subsequent one gives 0 by reducing efficiency of the lot. So, whoops. Alright, whatever. Nonetheless, it gives 500 GP. Good enough. Wait, that's not true. The first one gave 500, which would have put me at like 78 or 780 total. So the other 3 together netted about 400, which is better than netting 0. Anyways, that should be plenty of GP for now. So on to the next project. Next thing I want to tackle is the advanced mob spawner. Using this, we can more easily automate the creation of those ender or nether stars. So by running wither data models, for 9 seconds, we get one of these. Well, we get 25% chance at one of these. And so basically every 36 seconds, we get another star on average, if we do the most basic processing. But in addition, we get Supremium Essence, which is really the real prize here. Right now I've been crafting essences up to get to Superium. I haven't even gotten to Supremium yet. But with Supremium, it's easier to craft down to all the other tiers because it doesn't need the infusion crystal. If we want to get particularly cute, we can even, once we have this data, we can there's like more steps we can do to get more. I think you get up to 5 if you Supremium oven, and then splice, and then saw, and then purify. But then we have to automate the creation of this purifying fluid. And that just, it doesn't I don't know. Why don't I just run more data simulations instead of doing all these steps, In any event, let's start with the spawner. The spawner itself, it's not composed of any particularly difficult components to make, except those 9 machine vents. Machine vents take, let's see, auxiliary venting ports, I think 2 each. And these, they're not they're not difficult to make. They just take a lot of V. So I've made 6 and I'm waiting for the aura here to recharge so I can make more. But to that end, I've also set up I guess you call it an outpost out here in a mystical forest biome or magical forest biome. If you look on the map, we're out here. Our actual main base is down here. So we're like a couple thousand blocks away. But there's just a lot more total V available to use here because the magical biomes, I guess, have more magic. Who'd have thunk? Well, I drained it all. So I left a chunk loader here. I'm not sure if the chunk has to be loaded for it to recover, but I'll just come back for it. Oopsies, come back for it later and do the rest of the crafting at my third terminal. So by having 3 terminals, I can just, hop between them, and there we go, all 16. While Modular Machines does have a preview mode, you can't rotate it yet. That's been a feature I've been wanting for a long time in their previews. So as a result, it's not very useful because I want it rotated 180 degrees. Right, when I place it down, you'll see that this block here is the controller, and I want the controller facing me. Oh well, I'll just have to manually reference this design back and forth and, place all the blocks manually. The one quirk of modular machines in this pack, for most of them, they say require blueprint, which means that at the end you have to put this blueprint item in the blueprint slot. And there we go, blueprint found, structure found. So let's just go make the data model now. Because these data models are never consumed, I think just one is sufficient, but I made 2 anyways so that I don't have to worry. Like, after the first one gets run, it gets output to the output slot, and if I just only run one, it'll take it like a half second to move from output to input. Not enough energy. So anyways, by running 2, I don't have to worry about that. It'll start running the second one while it waits for the first one to cycle. And it makes sense that it doesn't have enough energy if I don't plug it in. It uses very little energy, 128 RF a tick. So I just have the basic energy input port, which incidentally is 128 RF a tick. So when it's done, all right, we only got the data model. So if we look at this, yeah, it's only a 25% chance for the data cluster. So I guess I need to set up an item conduit to send the data model back, and we can store the clusters elsewhere. So just item conduit, extracting, data clusters go here, data models go here, there's a filter, yada, yada, yada. Now that we have these clusters, we have to build the machine that processes them. So again, I'm thinking that instead of doing all these various steps, like this takes a long time, right? 1080 ticks, well, 360 ticks isn't a long time, but why don't I just directly process it? And if I really need more than this thing can produce, I'll just like build another one of these on top of it. Seems easy enough. Then we have the iron reinforced centrifuge. This is the first time I've seen something use an optional upgrade, but I have something that produces cloud seed, so I put it in the center in place of water. All right, it forms, and then all I have to do is now pipe this item to there. Very difficult task. I think I bamboozled myself. So the displayed energy per tick assumes you have the default processing speed, and because I cut the processing time in half, I think I doubled the energy requirement, and as a result, I now need double this amount of energy. I picked an energy hatch that was exactly 512, so yeah, it looks like it's complaining about not enough energy despite receiving 512 a tick. So I think I just need to build the next tier energy hatch. Whoops. I bamboozled myself a second time. I upgraded from the small hatch to the normal hatch. Turns out that doesn't actually increase the amount of energy you get per tick. You have to go up to reinforced. So drop that in. And now processing. Awesome. When that's done, it should spit out all these things at the output side, and then I'll just stash all that in a drawer, I guess. And there we have it, automated Supremium Essence. From the cost of, let's see, 128 RF a tick for this one and 1,000 RF a tick for this one. So for a hair over 1,000 RF a tick, we get all these resources. That's pretty cool. The theme of today seems to be random errands. So continuing that, I finally automated dropping items into a Botania mana pool. ME interface throws items into a chest. I could have the interface throw items directly into the open crate, but it's much slower that way. So if I just have the interface throw items into a chest, the chest throw items into an open crate, drops it into a mana pool, and I have a list of, things we drop in mana pools. Likewise for dropping it into the Elven portal, except since here you're dropping horizontally, I'm just using a formation plane to drop it. So I have an interface pointed at another interface. When it's pointed, it does not send channels in this direction. So this interface and that interface are actually on 2 different networks. This interface then dumps its contents into a formation plane, gives it to the elves, and then the elves, when they give stuff back, it's sucked into a vacuum chest if it matches the filter. This should probably be a big filter because I think I'm going to need more than 5 slots, but I'll change that later. Continuing with the theme of random upgrades, we can upgrade our terrestrial amalgamation plate to a Gaia amalgamation plate. According to the Lexica Botania, this takes about 0.3 mana pools, and it can also create Gaia steel ingots for 1 mana pool. As for what this does, I guess it has some uses. I don't know if I'll have to read more about them to see if they're any interesting. But it's basically the same thing except, made with Gaia resources or Elven resources instead of overworld ones. And it's a little bit faster than the terrestrial amalgamation plate was. I think the limiting factor was always our dropper, but I can just hook a timer up to this if I actually care. But we don't need a huge amount of Terra Steel, so right now I'm just clicking the button like 10 times. Next up, I want to better automate the process of starting infusions. I can't fully automate it yet because I have to personally come hit the runic matrix. However, right now our process is, let's do one just to demonstrate. After requesting the item, I wait until the items end up in here, which might take a second because I think I have to, why are these scheduled but not crafting? What happened here? Oh, the void seeds I put in there earlier got jammed. Okay. One thing unrelated is that I have to make sure I have all these aspects on hand, at all times. The solution for that is quite complicated, so I probably won't start this episode, but look forward to it. So anyways, after requesting the item, I have to wait till the products show up or the inputs show up in that chest, and then I have to click this button, wait for the items to get input into the various slots along our infusion, hit this, and then when it's done, I have to manually remove the final product from this pedestal and then either cancel the crafting task or put it in the ME system to complete the crafting, and then I can go do what I want with it. That's a lot of steps, and I want to reduce that by as much as possible. In fact, I just want to make it so that the only thing I have to do is come up and right-click this from time to time. Now, one behavior I was kind of counting on was that when there's an item in a pedestal, I want a comparator or something else to be able to detect that it's there. However, that doesn't appear to be the case right now. I know in previous versions of Thaumcraft, that would work because pedestals are effectively, single slot inventories. However, it seems that a comparator cannot read the contents of a pedestal. So I'm going to have to try a couple other ways to see if I can read the contents of a pedestal, because that's key to knowing, is there crafting going on, right? The matrix itself doesn't seem to emit any redstone to tell you whether it's like ready to craft or crafting ongoing, unlike the Botania runic matrix, wherever that thing is, right, hiding over there. It itself doesn't emit redstone, so we have to infer the state it's in based on whether or not there are items on the side pedestals, for instance. The extra utility scanner seems to be able to read some value from the pedestal, but it doesn't seem to correlate to whether or not there's an item on it. So we see it's 12 right now when empty, but I am on it, it's still 12. And I suspect actually that value is the distance to a stabilizer. Or rather 15 minus the distance to a stabilizer, right? Because it's on 12. If I break the stabilizer here, yeah, it goes to 8, which is probably the distance. It's like 7 blocks away from the next closest stabilizer. So let's see, and that should go back to 12 when I put this here. Ooh, it released a puff of flux. Anyways, I'm pretty sure that's actually what this number is. Yeah, 11, now it's 12. So I don't think the extra utilities scanner is where we want to be. I've tried a handful of things and I haven't been able to get any clean solution to work. That's not to say there aren't any solutions. For example, you could try to right click it, and if an item comes off, there's obviously was an item there, and then you just have to put it back if there was an item. However, that's a very clunky solution. It's difficult to scale. You have to test every pedestal independently, and that doesn't work on the central one, because if you pull the central item out, the infusion stops. So I'm opting to go for at least somewhat akin to our our system there doing the seeds, it'll be a less feedback-based system, a open loop control, so to speak. There is one bit of feedback, though, that we absolutely need, and that is, when does the infusion finish? I was thinking about measuring the items on the outside. Basically, when the last item on the outside goes away, you kind of know that the infusion is finished, because that's the condition for the infusion finishing. However, there's another way we can do it. My plan is, I have on the central pedestal an item conduit set to withdraw from it. So withdraw on brown, and it's inserting into this chest also on brown. I have an item filter on here which will whitelist all the finished products that we're making in this. Then what will happen is, for now I'll just manually place this item here as if it just finished. When this item is done, you see it disappears, it'll get withdrawn to here, and we can detect whether or not there are items in this chest. If there are items in the chest, right, with an inventory check, and we can just say, well, even this can just be a repeater. We can, simplify things a little bit. Or not a repeater, a comparator. So a comparator here, if there are items in the chest, it'll be, a non-zero signal. If not, it'll be 0. And then when that happens, we know that the infusion is done, which means we can do a couple things, like we can withdraw any remaining products. So if the infusion uses like a bucket or a primordial pearl, it'll leave the bucket, or primordial, like a bucket of water, it'll leave the bucket behind. Or if it uses a primordial pearl, it'll leave a damaged primordial pearl behind. Then we know that, okay, we can now, send a redstone signal to a set of item conduits that'll, I guess I have to run these along the inside. A set of item conduits here that'll withdraw the leftover byproducts. And then we can, advance the state to say, now we're ready to receive the next set of items for crafting. So let me hook up a bunch of conduits, and then I'll probably set up another state machine, somewhat akin to this, where we have a bunch of states, right? Like one is ready to start infusion, one state would be ready to accept the next set of items, and yada, yada, yada. All right, there's a lot of redstone here, and it looks very intimidating. I promise you, it's simpler than it looks. Let's walk through it, and bear with me if my explanations are not the best. First, we have a simple state machine. It's a 3-state state machine powered by these 3 counters. So depending on which counter is active, that determines what state we're in. I have them conveniently labeled with lamps. So first, we start in the waiting for input state. In this state, we are waiting for items to be placed into this chest. And there's a comparator on the chest. When items are put in the chest, you see this activates on this, what is this colored? Cyan channel. And the only thing connected to cyan is here. So this is a AND gate between, are we in state 1 and the cyan channel, which basically means as soon as there are items in that chest, we advance to state 2. So in fact, let me order an item. And it'll take it a second to do some alchemy beforehand. So while we wait for that, I'll talk about how state 2 works. State 2 is very simple. All it does is, after we enter state 2, a light gray color pulse is sent to this sequencer, which waits 5 seconds. That might even be more than we need, but it waits 5 seconds and then sends us into state 3. So I'm expecting the items to be placed in this chest any second now. There we go. Also, as soon as items are, or as soon as we enter state 1, I also pulse the builder to copy the, to swap the chest so that the items end up here. So anyways, in state 2, the job, the reason we're waiting, we give it 5 seconds for this import bus to suck all the items up and put them where, let the A's, the subnet, determine where all the items go. Afterwards, after 5 seconds, it sends a pulse on, this bus, I guess you could call it, is like the main control bus. Every redstone pulse on this control bus increments the, takes us to the next state. This is just an off switch. We can ignore it. The lamp being on means the system is running. And then once we're in state 3, Well, first of all, when we are in state 3, the objective here is to wait for the infusion to end. So state 3 runs until the infusion is done. Now, I have to manually start the infusion. However, if we had a way to automatically start the infusion on a redstone pulse, the start of state 3 is when we will want to do it. So, when on red signal, well, I guess right now the red signal is isolated to this mini net, but I can give it a different color. But basically at the start of stage 3, we'll want to send a redstone signal to, whatever mechanical user type device that can start the infusion and start it. Now, state 3 will run for a while because it has to run until the infusion completes, so I'll be back in 1 minute. Alright, our infusion is currently eating up the items, as you can see the little wisp of item trails. And when this is done, the item will be extracted from the item conduit. It'll be done soon. Alright, it's done. We should see that lamp flash. That flash is indicative of there being an item in here. So what happens is when the item enters here, we flash the lamp, and all that's doing is saying output blue here. I think okay, so this is like a stage 3.5, I guess, if I think about it. This on blue, basically, as long as there's an item in this chest, it will turn on all of these item conduits to clean up whatever is left in the pedestals. It doesn't really matter what item is left in the pedestal. All these item conduits are on extract while there's a signal on blue. And they're inserting the items directly back into the ME system here. If I pull my wrench out, I can show you. This is inserting on blue. What it also does is once we detect that there are items in here, the blue signal also goes into this repeater, which waits 2 seconds and then sends a 2-second redstone pulse on the white channel to this import bus, which empties out the product here. So that we get 2 seconds to empty out the items from those pedestals before we eat this item. And that white pulse also gets sent to this AND gate, which says when we receive the pulse, if automation is on and we are in state 3, then send a pulse back, which will send us back into state 1. So yeah, that runs through a cycle. It leaves us in the waiting for input state, and it ingested, it ate the final product here. So all we have to do when we want to craft a new item is we have to add it to the item filter here. The item filter here has to contain all the final products, and we have to add the center item to this storage bus here. So it looks very intimidating, but I think once you understand it, it's not as bad as it sounds, right? I hope. Anyways, I hope this kind of made sense. It's a pretty complicated system. Well, again, it's a pretty complicated looking system because there's so many wires running all over the place. But fundamentally, it's just powered by, a finite state machine, incrementing between the states depending on, what little feedback we can get out of the system, right? We're actually only pulling, I think, 2 bits of feedback out of the system. The first bit is, are there items in this chest? And the second bit is, are there items in this chest? Everything else is based on timers and dead reckoning. Using our newly automated system, I crafted 16 causality collapsers. What are the odds all 16 of these fail to produce a primordial pearl? Can't be. That can't happen. No, never. Not possible. Alright, the second one got me one, but apparently it comes at part durability. Looking at it, it doesn't say it can be enchanted with mending, but I'm going to try anyways. I'm also going to use the rest of these up and hopefully get a few more. Because 4 uses gets us exactly 1 witch's oven. And we're going to need more than 1 witch's oven. I think part of the reason I wasn't getting them quite so often is because my rifts were tiny. I threw like 10 stacks of compressed cobble in there, released it all, and this monster appeared. Oh boy. I'm also suffering under the effects of flux exposure. Hey, I got another pearl. Yeah, these rifts I'm spawning now are much better. But yeah, one of the effects of being exposed to so much fluxes, you sometimes get debuffs that make your screen all wonky. Anyways, I'm gonna make a couple more those collapsers now that I know that I can spawn much bigger rifts. And I'm probably going to toss a couple more stacks in that crucible to see if I can mess up this chunk any more than I already have. So to create monster rifts like that, I touched it, just throw a bunch of stuff in a crucible. Compressed cobble is both cheap and has a lot of aspects in it. The crucible looks all mucky and there's like 10,000 stuff in there. Then you just shift right click it, let it all into the air. And now you have these monsters. So you still collapse them as usual. One collapser does the trick. Lots of explosions along the way. And I think we got another half durability one. Like, whew, that's huge. You could almost fit your mom in that. Anyways, I'm going to use up these 8 and see how we do. Hopefully we get more than a couple more primordial pearls. Well, from those 8, I still only managed to get the 1. Alas. Here's the 3 we've gotten so far. I'm going to try a few things. First of all, yeah, as it said, it doesn't take mending. Can they be crafted together? They cannot. But, oh, they don't even take unbreaking. I thought it said it did. I've been bamboozled. I assume I can't enchant it directly in there either. So I guess what you see is what you get. Let's try some of the various repairs. So without mending, I obviously can't put it in there. And let's see if we can repair it with flux reconstruction. This allows for damaged items to be repaired by supplying energy and essence. Hey, it can. Wow, that's wonderful. Okay, so I was not expecting that. It's actually a very good rate too. 5 essence of knowledge per primordial pearl or per durability. So with that in mind, wow, I did not expect that to work. With that in mind though, now we have, as long as we don't break them completely, we have an effectively infinite supply of primordial pearls. And the number one thing we'll use them for are these advanced alchemical constructs, because these are used as crafting components for witches' ovens. So you know what, let's see if we can make a witches' oven to round things out today. It looks like some of the materials we need come from Mortum, which is, I think, the Divine RPG dimension after Skythern. So first we gotta go to Skythern and snag a mob. And finally we can go to Mortum and snag a mob. Before we go to craft the witch's oven, we just have to make sure to add it to the filter here. So witch's oven goes in here. We'll need, again, more than one of these eventually, but one of them will be enough to get us started on bewitchment. So let's craft it. Let's see, 1 witch's oven. Now this uses a lot of aspects. I made sure we had them, but it'll take, like what I'm saying, this crafting job will take a long time because the rate that they're, absorbed is fixed. And yeah, this looks like it'll take 5-ish minutes. So I'll probably just trust that it doesn't have any, too terrible flux events and go do something else in the meantime. While that crafts, let's talk about the system that I think I want to work on tomorrow. So right now we have, a bunch of various essentia in our system. However, when I go to craft something, say, I want to craft 5 witches' ovens, right? I have to come and check to make sure I have enough of each of these aspects. So like, check, do I have enough, Machina, Ignis, and Precantatio? So I'm a little short on Precantatio, plenty of Ignis, and just about enough Machina. However, I would love to make it so that when I go to craft something, I can just assume that the A system will automatically, or some automation system will automatically keep these resources stocked for me. Normally, if you have a system like this where you want to just keep a certain amount of item around, you use level emitters. But we saw last episode that a level emitter, that there are no essentia level emitters. In fact, there's no way at all to read the amount of essentia that you have stored digitally. So we're going to have to come up with a way to check the amount of essentia we have and as needed, throw items into smelteries to make more of that essentia. So just as a bit of a sneak peek, or as a teaser, I guess you could say, my plan is that we'll store the essentia in item form. So if we store it in warded jars, right? Say we have this warded jar of potentia here. Well, if I have a system where I have 10 warded jars of potentia, I know I have at least 2,500 potentia. And we could extend that logic to all the different types of whatchamacallit these essentia. So yeah, we're gonna have to build a system that can handle all 40 odd types of essentia. We'll have to store them in jars so that we can set arbitrary cutoff numbers, and we'll have to somehow feed items into not into those into smelteries to reach those numbers. And I gotta say that my plan for the automated Essentia Smeltery is largely the brainchild of Epic Ninja Crafter on Discord. So huge shout out to him for having the idea, sharing it with me, and really ironing it out. So look forward to that project tomorrow. But for now, let's grab the Witch's Oven so that I can complete the quest. I presume that will unlock in here. I thought there would have been a quest in here. I guess you're supposed to start with the cauldron. Wait. Oh, I guess you don't start with the cauldron. You start with the oven? Hold on. There we go. I just had to go do a few prerequisite quests. And now we have the very beginning of Witchery Open, or I guess Bewitchment as it's called now. So anyways, we'll come back next episode. I think we'll start by doing some more Thaumcraft. And if we finish with that, which I don't know, it might take a couple episodes, we can move on to Bewitchment. And anyways, I hope you enjoyed this somewhat scattered episode, but I hope you enjoyed it anyways, and I hope to see you in the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.